Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on a Monday instead of a Wednesday as our usual one. This is a very special webinar because we've pulled together some amazing people who are doing incredible things in this pandemic. And actually, this webinar has been long in the planning. And we're delighted to really sort of showcase and highlight and help support some really incredible people and projects. So we're going to meet four of our alumni. The first one is Abanar Kuhananthan. We also have Ravi Suntairalingam. We have Kai Seong, and we have Hema Lechamanan. And we also have a special guest with us who will be Harith Iskander. As you know, he is the godfather of Malaysian comedy, crowned the world's funniest stand-up at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles, and the host of the talk show What's Going On Malaysia. He's also a celebrated actor and director. But today, he's going to be sharing with us the remarkable work that he's been doing to help those people who have been most affected by the pandemic. Now, I'm also delighted to announce that the Oxbridge Society of Malaysia is donating 1,000 ringgit to each of these 5 organizations to say thank you for being our guests and to really just kind of say thank you to them for all the amazing work that they've been doing. We also hope that this inspires our members, viewers, and supporters to actually also donate to these organizations. And you will see in the YouTube links at the bottom, we've got links to their organizations, and sometimes that's financial links, financial help that they're looking for, and sometimes it's for manpower or other resources. So we really actually just want you to support them as well as to applaud the work that they're doing. We also want to acknowledge the work of another one of our alumni, who is Dr. Kian Ming Ong, who is the MP for Bangi. He's not in the webinar tonight, but he's also been doing amazing work in this pandemic to help his constituents. But we could really only have 4 of our alumni plus Harith. It's already quite a long event. So from my point of view, I really want to thank Patrick Helson, Chako Vadiketh, and Sharifa Bakar-Ali, Mark Disney, for pulling all of this together. As I say, it's been months in the planning. Thank you to Faisal Arif for all the tech support with assistance from Sean Tan and Liana Khairuddin. So let's bring on our moderators for the evening. We have Patrick Helson, who runs an education business here in KL. He also supports refugees, actually, but he doesn't talk about that too much. And Chako Vadiketh, who is an actor, host, and voiceover artist. So welcome to Patrick and Chako.
Great. Hello, Emma. Hello, Chako.
Hello, Patrick. And good evening to all our viewers out there in cyberspace.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Many thanks, Emma. So yeah, Emma said, why are we here tonight? We were sitting around a couple of months ago on the Oxbridge Exco saying, how should we do something for the pandemic? You know, how should we support? And we realized we had no idea. Should we give money? Should we volunteer? And we just felt it's actually very hard to know what to do. There's a lot of scams. There's a lot of poorly managed initiatives. And then we had a brainwave. Well, hang on, why don't we ask our alumni? You know, maybe some of them are doing some good things. So we reached out to the alumni. We got some great responses from our alumni network, and some of them are doing some really fine things. So tonight, it's all about providing a platform to showcase what some different people are doing. And so if you feel overwhelmed, like we did, thinking, what can we do? What's the best thing to do to respond to the pandemic? Which NGO to support? You know, we're confident that tonight we're going to give you some inspiration and some focus from our own alumni network. Let me give you a very quick overview of the evening. As Emma mentioned, our special guest tonight is Harith Iskander, whose own remarkable work touches on the same issues as some of our alumni. So we're going to hear tonight a lot about food aid, a lot about education intervention, and also human rights advocacy. There's a lot of varied work going on. When Harith heard about what we were trying to do, he wanted to support this webinar, and we are so grateful for his support. So first thing, Chako Vadiketh is going to be chatting to Harith about his great work. Then we're going to hear from each of 4 Oxbridge alumni, all doing amazing things with their own organizations. And then towards the end, if we have time, we'll do some Q&A. And that's it. So let's start. Chako, over to you.
Thank you, Patrick. And I'm delighted to welcome the one and only Harith Iskander.
Hello. Hey,
Hi,
Shako.
Harith. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know you've got an incredibly busy schedule. In fact, amazing interview last night with Noor Sajjad on your What's Going On Malaysia program.
Oh,
That was
wow.
very
Okay.
moving, very powerful. Thank you for giving her a voice. I think we would have a whole webinar just on the issues that brings up. But
Yeah.
we're here to talk about you and your work for people affected by COVID. But before that, I think everyone would be curious to know how you were the first stand-up comedian in Malaysia, and from that you became the world's best stand-up comedian, crowned at the Laugh Factory in 2017. How does that happen?
Oh, okay. Yes, I actually think about it. I was the first stand-up comedian because when I first did my first show and then began to do it professionally in 1990, which is 31 years ago, there was no stand-up comedy in Malaysia. It did not exist as an art. There was two people on stage. There was sketch comedy. There was conversational comedy. There was no pure stand-up. So only when I was doing it for about 5 or 6 years, and then, other people came along much later, then I realized actually I was the first. So that's how it started. It started in 1990 in a small hotel called the Subang Airport Hotel.
My
Anybody
goodness.
remembers that? That was the airport hotel back in the day. First show was in the lobby lounge of the Subang Airport Hotel. Second show was watching Rafiq Rashid in All That Jazz in SS2, I think it was, where I was just sitting in the audience and someone told Rafiq, this kid tells jokes. He invited me up and I got up and unofficially did my second show. And fast forward to 2017, how that happened was I was contacted by Laugh Factory, hey, representative from Malaysia, would you like to take part in the competition, worldwide competition, stand-up comedians? And I was like, yeah, well, maybe not. So I just submitted a clip just for the hell of it. And then I suddenly got an email a couple of weeks later saying, hey, you're in the top 40 or top 80 finalists, and your clips will be going up and then people will be online voting. And then the top 20 will get into the finals. And then I headed, or I was number one in the online voting, and then ended up being in the top 20 finalists, which was live shows held actually in Finland, and I won that as well. So that was called the world's funniest person in the world competition. Of course, it's only a competition and it's only a title. Funniest person in the world was definitely Donald Trump at the time. So he didn't join. So yeah. So that's the
Just as well.
Reader's Digest version of my career.
Thank you so much. And what a career it's been. And you've done so many other things, but we don't have time to go into that. I mean, I remember you from Jagan Ketawa and of course, some of the Instant Cafe shows and so on,
Yeah, a quick mention. I was, I used to watch the Instant Cafe, and then I got invited to join them for a few shows back in the day when it was Andrew Leslie and Joe Kukutas and Zahim Al-Bakri and Shantini and so that was a lot of fun back in those days where there was no
I used
social
to do
media.
Shows with them as well, so
exactly.
It was great fun, and it's great that Joe's still keeping Instant Cafe going. Yeah. So Harith, I think another significant moment in your life is when you married Dr. Jasmine Lim, and apart from making you a husband and a father of 3 amazing kids, she's also your partner in your career. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So to be honest, when I met my wife, if you can talk about my career trajectory, it sort of looked a bit like this. And then when my wife came into my life, I'm not making this up. It went like this. I don't know what that is in business terms. Some of you alumni may be able to tell me. It's like when you get that new CEO who comes in and just goes boom like that.
Wow.
She just took a look at my career and she went, "Hey, let me manage you." And I'm like, "You're a doctor. What do you know about managing a professional comedian?" Oh, how wrong I was. So so without a doubt, she completely revamped, redesigned, and re-engineered my professional career. And for one reason alone, which actually makes sense when you look at it, is like, what other manager is going to protect you as a product or as a person other than your wife? Because her main goal is you, the family, as opposed to personal gain or whatever. So it made complete sense when you look at it. Plus, she was 100% capable. She's just the type of woman who looks at something, and if you say to her, you can't do that, she'll do it.
Yeah. And I think we have a cute picture of the two of you, which...
Okay.
And there it is. It's
Yeah.
just a screenshot, which I thought was really adorable.
Yeah.
And what are you both doing there?
Okay, so that's about a month ago. We got together with a company called Systemizer to give away 20 Lenovo ThinkPads. You can see what I'm holding there. 20 Lenovo ThinkPads, which are very valuable, worth about 4,000 or 5,000 ringgit, to the most deserving individuals. And by that I meant people who were struggling with the pandemic, were struggling with the device, were struggling with connectivity, but we're doing great things, and we know that with this ThinkPad, Lenovo ThinkPad, would totally change their lives. And this included students as well, mostly students, but also I just give you a couple examples. There was a deaf girl who sent in a video, and she was just describing how internet connectivity and the old phone that she was using kept dropping out. Turns out she's in college. Not only is she deaf and she's in college, she's also in the top 2 or 3 people in her college, and she's deaf, up against people who aren't. And we were like, that just blows me away that you're struggling. Can you imagine being deaf in an online learning class while everyone else is hearing abled? Like, she has to work 20 times harder than anybody else. And we just thought to ourselves, you know what, with this ThinkPad, she totally deserved it. Came from a very, very average family, and then we found out later that her father had passed away, and so she was about 19. She is about 19. When she was 14, her hearing aid broke, and it's about 4,000 or 5,000 ringgit, and she hasn't had a hearing aid since then, and that would make all the difference. But her mother can't afford it, so we're like, boom, like, let's the Hope Branch, let's get you a hearing aid, because it's ridiculous that not say ridiculous, it's just the amount of obstacles she needed to get over to get where she wants to be. It's just unbelievable. So I thought, how can we help this kind of person just achieve their dreams? And
okay, Harith, I'm going to stop you.
Something,
yeah, that's an amazing story, and wonderful you could help this girl. So the Hope Branch was founded by both you and Jessamine, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, perhaps before we go into the Hope Branch, there's a little video clip that I was particularly touched by from your Hope Branch's Instagram page. If you could have the video clip of the Hope Branch.
Assalamualaikum, Harith Iskander. Police record 468 suicides from January to May. That's 3 suicides a day. 3 people are killing themselves a day. Now, I'm not an expert on mental health, but I'm pretty sure financial difficulties played a part in some, if not most, of these cases. I've been on the ground with the Hope Branch for almost 2 years now, distributing meals, grocery packs, barangan-barangan dapur. Now, as the pandemic and the lockdown went on and on and on, and more people began to lose their job and take pay cuts, we came across more and more cases of families having real financial problems, especially single parents, with 3 or 4 or more kids, sometimes elderly people living on their own, or kids who have lost a parent or both parents to COVID. Sometimes I met parents who were forced to let their kids go under someone else's care. Why? Because they couldn't afford to take care of their own children properly. And many of them are living in small, cramped apartments, in zinc roof huts, living in cars pun ada.
Oh, that's incredible. I just thought it shows the scope of how the pandemic has affected people. And You can see the donation link if you would like to support this project. It's called the R.U.L.E project. And it's also, you can see it on the YouTube page under this video. So those who would like to support it. And within that link, you'd also find out more information about the Hope Branch. How did the Hope Branch come about, Harith?
We all went into lockdown March 18th, 2020. Complete lockdown. If you remember that first lockdown, that was a real, police with barbed wire outside your house kind of thing. On myself, I was just wondering out loud about Dato' Manira from Petiwi, who feeds the homeless on a regular basis. And I just contacted her and said, how's Petiwi handling this? How can we help? And she said, okay, yes, can you help? Could you take over feeding this bunch of homeless, this number of homeless on this particular night, one night a week? And we said yes. And at the same time, my wife knew that a lot of people in hospitals were grabbing for PPEs. There was a great shortage of PPEs. She had a contact who could bring in the PPEs, and so we're going to buy a whole cartons and cartons and cartons of PPEs and send it out to hospitals and to police who were needing it urgently. This was within the first few days. And then from there, at first we were using our own money, putting in our own finances. And then from one night of feeding the homeless became 3 nights and more PPEs. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And it got to a certain point, we were like, you know what? We can't keep paying for this anymore. We're going to call in some friends and, reach out to friends who could support us. And then it kept growing and growing and growing. Like, you know what? We need to register this. And so we registered it a couple of months later, which allows us to raise funds from the public, because it just, once again, anything that my wife, handles the trajectory goes that way. So so now it's a fully registered ROS NGO. We have a staff, we have a great, wonderful group of volunteers, which is ever growing. We have now reached out to every corner of Malaysia, including Sabah and Sarawak. And so basically that's how it started, just basically with 2 people going, hey, I wonder who needs help. I wonder how we can help. And interestingly enough, I spoke to Jamila formerly of the Mercy Malaysia. And she said that's exactly how she started Mercy Malaysia. 4 doctors in a room going, hey, how can we help women doctors across the world? And look where Mercy Malaysia is today. So so that's how we started.
That's an amazing story. And it's in such a short time. I mean, we had to face the pandemic just last year. So it's been about 2 years.
18 months, I think, 19 months,
Yeah. And what are the areas that you've been focusing on? I think you've quite a broad range of areas.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Without getting to boring details, I can tell you where we currently are. Currently, on 5 or 6 days a week, we have a regular gelandangan feeding or homeless. So Monday, I think Tuesday, Wednesday, and maybe Friday.
Is that just in KL? Oh, Chowkit.
Just in KL and Chowkit, about 300 or 400 meals per day. Saturday and Sunday, we're in Medan Tuanku, regular lunch, 300 meals, 350 meals Saturday, Sunday. So that is regular, ongoing, non-stop, consistent for the last at least year or so. On top of that, we pop up with different things like the recent floods in Kedah. Our phone was inundated with people who needed support. And so we quickly got in touch with people in Kedah. Their belongings had all been trashed and floodwaters up to the chest. Anything that's below chest level destroyed. Essentially, fridges, washing machines. So we mobilized and went up to Kedah. In Kelantan, just earlier this year, there were also floods. 2,000 Orang Aslis in various different Orang Asli camps had been cut off from their regular inroads in the jungles and all. So we mobilized and got helicopters as well from the Malaysian Air Force to send them, beras and oil and any other essential goods. So those are one-off projects that happen regularly. On top of that, there are PPR flats. I don't know if people know PPR are these low-cost flats all over the Klang Valley, specifically in Subang, in Pantai Dalam and all, where we regularly support people there. But I'd like to talk about the latest project, which is what that video was about, which is the R.U.L.E project. Now, R.U.L.E stands for rent, utilities, living expenses. Rent, utilities, living expenses, R-U-L-E. Basically, what we found is in the third MCO, because, you know, we've had 1, 2, 2.0, and 3. It's almost on a birthday level that we're having these MCOs, that we found out that food is food is food. And you know, especially after the Bandera Putih movement, everybody was out there giving food. Food's not so much a problem. What was happening was people who were two income household, husband, wife, living on just the border, where both their incomes just enough to pay the rent, pay the car, pay school fees, pay internet, pay electricity. One parent either loses a job or loses 70% of their pay cut. Immediately they drop behind the level that you need just to live. So people were not just to live on a daily basis. People were not wanting food. They were like, I haven't paid my rent for 3 months, my electricity bill for 2 months, my basic living expenses. You know, these people who are used to working, they're not homeless, they're not poor, they're not, you know, they are working people who are now, if you want to use imagery, they're now fallen off the boat and are struggling to keep, you know, breathing above the water. So we're just trying to throw them a life jacket just for a couple of months to say, hold on, got your rent handled and all, just so that you can pick yourself up again and get back to work and not have.
Okay, Harith, we're going to have
things
to
like
move on to our other guests. But just very quickly, I think you can find out more from the links that you can see and in the YouTube page. I think that's such a fantastic, because everybody's thinking about food and shelter, but these are people who are caught in between two stools, kind of. And this is the Hope Branch. And just very quickly, you know, seeing so much hardship and loss and death and so on, is it hard being funny?
You know what, to be honest, I'm kind of moving through a different part of my life right now where funny only exists because there is pain, strangely enough. Humor is based on pain. The classic joke of Charlie Chaplin walking along, slips on a banana peel, falls over. It's, you know, eternally classic, but it's rooted in pain. It's someone has hurt their back or their bum. And that is what humor is good for. Humor alleviates pain. Humor lets us deal with pain. So therefore, when you say, is it difficult to be funny after experiencing all this? Not really, because, you know, life is life, and you can't stop laughing just because you see some darkness. You use laughter to alleviate and to bring a bit of light into that darkness.
Laughter is the best medicine, as they say.
Yeah, as they say.
So, Harith, if we want to catch a Harith show now that things are opening up, where could we catch that and when?
Well, so my comedy club, The Joke Factory, has just opened again. It's in the Publica. The Joke Factory, we just opened last week. We're only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday for now. We're working on strict SOPs, 30% capacity. All the seats are 1 meter apart. Everything is sanitized, a double vaccination. All the comedians and the staff are tested on a weekly, if not bi-weekly basis. So if you want to see great live comedy, and nothing beats live comedy, you know, it's at the Joke Factory in Publica.
Fantastic. And now I'm going to hand things over to Patrick, and we're going to talk to our alumni and their work. And Harith, please chip in if you have a comment or a question.
No, just to let you know, I might need to leave in a moment because I have another event just before 9 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, I'll stay around for a while.
Thank you, Harith. Thank you so much for joining us then, Harith.
Thank you.
Great to have you. Patrick, you're muted.
Thank you so much, Harith. And it'd be lovely to have you stay around as long as you can, but we appreciate how busy you are. Welcome to Kai Song, who's joined us. Kai Song, we're going to talk about your initiative first. You founded Rakan Tutor in April, just this year, so it's very new. And this is to address learning loss due to the pandemic. You've also founded an EdTech startup. So, and I believe you're an ex-McKinsey consultant, or perhaps you're still a McKinsey consultant, but originally from Newnham College, Cambridge. But lovely to have you here. Kai Song, we can just hold on this slide for a moment. But Kai Song, tell us, what does Rakan Tutor do? Tell everybody.
Sure. Rakan Tutor is a non-profit organization offering free one-to-one tutoring to students in need. We launched it as a response to COVID-19 learning loss and inequality in Malaysia, but have since then evolved into a long-term youth movement to empower underserved students. It is more than just a tutoring program, but we also, aside from wanting to help them perform better academically, we also hope to act as mentors to help these students gain soft skills and guidance on their future pathways in order to achieve the fullest potential.
Okay, understood. So it's not just learning, it's a bit of mentoring as well. Now, we've got a short video. Could we play the short video for Rakan Tutor? Okay, we like the snappy video very much. You seem to have done a lot in a very short period of time. Can you just tell us about some of your initial successes?
Sure. Having launched the program officially in June, we have received more than 749 volunteer applications to become tutors. We eventually onboarded 500 tutors and tutees after our interview and training program. Our tutors have since then spent more than 5,000 hours tutoring, and we are expected to hit about 10K hours by the end of the program in November this year.
Yeah, it's quite overwhelming how much you seem to have done. We've got a slide here, a lovely slide showing lots of your current volunteers. Are you spread all over the country, or are you focused in KL?
Yeah, so our students are in almost every state in both East and West Malaysia, including Sabah and Sarawak. They are from 50 different schools, all selected by their school-based teachers based on our criteria. So this may include having a family household income less than a certain amount of money, struggling with learning loss, and other criteria as such.
Okay. How are the tutorials actually delivered? Is it online, or are you using mobile phones?
So I think that's a combination. Given it's a one-to-one model, the tutors can really personalize content to what the tutee missed in school, and also the platform used. Most of the students actually learn through things like Google Meet, Zoom, but we also support students in some of the most challenged areas, such as in Sarawak, where there might be infrastructural challenges with access to even data connectivity. So we will then use both voice call and also sending screenshots of mathematics working on a piece of paper via WhatsApp, so that the student could learn both from that screenshot and also a voice call from the tutor for almost an hour.
Right, and does that seem to be working? How are you measuring whether it's proving to be effective or not?
Yeah, so I think we have gotten a very good preliminary results. We are expected to compile an impact report to send out to everyone who's interested at the end of this year when our program ends. So we get the students to complete a pre-assessment. One is to ensure that the tutors know exactly which topics to cover, but also then we can replicate a similar assessment at the end of the program after 3 to 6 months in order to understand whether the students have improved. But as mentioned, this is not just about improving from a C to a B or a B to an A, but instead, we also want the tutors to use this tutoring opportunity as a door opener to enter into a student's life, build trust with them, and help them with their future pathway. What do they think about doing beyond SPM? And I think that is also a really important element, because there's no point getting students to get an A if they don't know what to do next, but instead really helping them goal set and focus on their to achieve their goals.
I see. So you're not measuring A's, only A grades. You're actually trying to measure how well you move someone from maybe a D to a C or a C to a B. Okay. And I know it's very new. Have you actually managed to do any measurements yet, or not yet? Or is that work in progress?
Yeah, so we are still working on it right now. We have gotten very much like anecdotes from the tutors and the tutees on how they have impacted a student's life. So for example, one of the Oxbridge alumni, Jamie, she was from Newnham College as well. She's spending about 6 to 7 hours a week tutoring her tutee, and she felt that since the past 2 months, she really improved in terms of her independent learning skills. So initially, the tutee really relied on her spoon feeding the answer. But right now, she could start researching on her own solutions online, getting access to getting access to some of the materials that Jamin has provided and trying to work through those questions herself, rather than expecting just step-by-step answers handed over to her. So that's one of the testimonials from a tutor and a tutee.
All right. So what's working well, and where do you think the Oxbridge alumni could help? What's the different ways that our alumni group might be able to help Rakan Tutor?
Sure. So I think we are looking to continue to build Rakan Tutor. As mentioned, this is no longer going to be a pandemic project. We want to build this beyond COVID-19. So there are a few areas that we can think of. The first one is on tech partnership. Right now, we would love to centralize as we grow to have, 1,000 students, 10,000 students. We would like to have a platform that we can centralize all this learning. Secondly, we would also seek to have content partnership in order to scale to new subjects faster. Currently, we are only focusing on mathematics, and the reason is that we have to compile our own content repository to ensure that both the tutors and the tutees feel supported. We are also organizing a lot of Inspire sessions for both the tutors to continue to support the community, but also for the tutees who may come from underserved backgrounds. They may want a bit of a push on whether it's to gain motivation to study for their SPM exams or to think through their tertiary education. So anyone who might have a thing to share, we would welcome them as speakers for Inspire sessions. And then finally, we are also planning to set up new Rakan Tutor branches next year in order to scale on a more decentralized model. So if you're keen to be involved, or your school is keen to be involved, also please get in touch. We'd love to have a conversation with you.
Great. So look, I think the interesting thing to emphasize to people online is you're not actually looking for financial donations. It's more partnerships and assistance. And you mentioned, like, one interesting thing is if there's people in our alumni group that could provide inspiring speaking sessions to some of your tutees, that could work very well. So for the alumni listening, yeah, I'm sure money would be welcome, but there's any type of way that you want to get involved, email Kai Song here. Now, I was going to ask Harith if he had any views on this. I'm not sure if Harith is still with us, though. Has he had to drop off, Chaco?
I'm not sure. I don't see him either.
Okay.
I think we can assume he had to
not
drop
right.
off.
He did say he might have to
I think just following on from that, I think what Kai Song said is also tech support is really important. So if some of our alumni can assist in that or get sponsorship from somebody who can provide that, I think that would be really welcome and help them, reach out to more people.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kai Song. We're going to press on, but hopefully come back for Q&A a little bit later. But lovely to talk with you. Can we move on to Hema of Projek BacaBaca? Hi, Hema. How are you today?
Hello. Hi, Patrick. Hi, Chaco.
Hi.
Now, Hema, you're a senior lecturer at Taylor's University, and you're a program director of postgraduate talk programs there. You're a pure Oxbridge person because you've got a master from Oxford and a PhD from Cambridge. So you really are a member of the organisation, and you've done a lot of research into education for children from marginalised communities in Malaysia, like orang asli groups, refugees, urban children living in poverty. And I think you've also been developing a lot of curriculums for out-of-school children, so very relevant to the pandemic. And Projek BacaBaca has grown out of that. Is that right?
Yes, that's right, Patrick. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Projek BacaBaca came about as a response to learning poverty. The larger goal, or the grand aim that I have, people who know me always know that I've got these big goals for education in Malaysia, especially for children who come from marginalized communities. And that is to address learning poverty in Malaysia. And we talk a lot about poverty, but we speak very little, if at all, about learning poverty. And just to, if I may, just to give a quick, brief explanation of what learning poverty is, or in Malay, we call it as kemiskinan pembelajaran. World Bank defines learning poverty as children who are unable to read and understand age-appropriate text by the time they are 10 years old. In Malaysia, 13% of our children in late primary age are unable to read or proficient in reading. Now, what happens is that when they're not proficient in reading, they are unable to cope with all the other school subjects, be it science, math, history, any other subjects. And this leads to them not being interested in attending school, eventually dropping out. So Projek BacaBaca, we began this year, in May this year, to work towards addressing this problem in Malaysia.
And I think we've talked before, and I think one of the things you've emphasized to me that you want to get across tonight is you really feel that most of us don't appreciate the scale of the problem with this reading efficiency drop. Is that right?
Correct. Like I said, we speak a lot about poverty, but not so much about learning poverty. And I've spoken to people who go like, what's learning poverty? Is that even, does that even exist? It does. It's very real. And it affects, well, all children, I think. And this situation has been in existence even before pandemic. UNESCO estimated 613 million children do not have the basic level of literacy. And this was in 2017, pre-pandemic. So you can imagine how the situation is now during pandemic, where schools have been closed for more than a year.
Got you. Well, I think we have a short video that you've sent us that we could just screen now about Projek BacaBaca. Can we watch the video quickly?
Children who are not reading at the grade level are more likely to drop out of school and unable to use their reading skill to excel in other subjects. And in addition, COVID-19 puts the children further behind. Considering the current situation, these are the objectives of Projek BacaBaca. And definitely, this project is related to Sustainable Goal Development 4, the uniqueness of our project. We have successfully enrolled 30 students, 30 volunteers, and 11,000 ringgit Malaysia fund was raised for this project. Even though the project is still in the first phase, the parents are very happy with their children's reading ability. Thanks for watching. Contact us for more detail.
Great, nice video. Can we just go back to the presentation for Projek BacaBaca? Now, Hema, we're not going to have time to go through every slide in detail, but I thought we could just click through. And you've already mentioned one or two statistics, but can we go to the next slide? And you just quickly, if there's a top level point you quickly want to make, otherwise we'll move on to the next slide.
We can move on to the next slide.
Let's go on to the next slide.
We've covered this.
Yeah. So this is just an overview of your timing. So you're also very new, and you're still in the state of assessing how it's going, I guess.
That's right. I think the uniqueness of this project is that at a time where we're talking or we're focusing a lot on internet, we're taking a step back from internet, and we're seeing how we can still provide this reading sessions without being dependent on internet, because not everyone has good access to internet connection. Internet connection is expensive for most people, and all the child or the family needs in this for this project to participate in this project is really a telephone, working telephone, landline, mobile phone. Your ancient Nokia 3310 works. That's I think it's what's unique about this project. So our reading coaches will telephone these children and have reading sessions for 30 minutes with the child.
Twice a week.
Twice a week, yes.
And this to me is one of the amazing things, that you're doing it all through mobile phone, because you're targeting very poor areas, just these PPR flats that Harith mentioned earlier, I think.
That's right.
Yes. We're a bit scarce on time, but in the remaining slides, was there anything you'd want to touch on, Hema?
Yes, so we conducted a diagnostic test before the start of the project, and we're now 3 months into, so we will be conducting our midterm assessment, and at the end of 6 months, we'll also have a project and assessment to see the progress of the students. And from feedback feedback from our volunteers is that most of the children, if not all, are showing some progress because we have children who are 9 years old but reading only at year 1 level. We have children who are in year 4 but reading at year 1 level. So we have to be realistic here. Within 6 months, we cannot get the child to read at year 4 level. But if the child can make some progress and with the parents' support later on, that would keep the momentum going.
Okay. You're developing your own reading materials. That's why I thought this slide was interesting to show. I'm amazed. I'm sure that must take up a lot of time. And I think one of the ways you're hoping the alumni network could help is maybe you need volunteer help for developing some reading materials or translating some existing materials into a simplified format. Is that right?
That's right, especially in Bahasa Melayu. I think that's where we need most of our reading materials, or English as well, to work on illustrations like this that children would love and do a bit of coloring post reading. So any such support, besides of course the financial support, but any such support in materials development would be greatly appreciated.
And then I think we just have a couple of slides. It's just lovely to see some of the faces of your volunteers. So this is Sohana, and then I think the next slide is Evelyn.
Yes.
And Evelyn.
For now, we have got our volunteers are all from Taylor's University. But from next year onwards, we're really looking to open up because all it needs is just one person to believe in a child and to believe and to spend 60 minutes of their time each week teaching reading to this child. And that is 1 hour that we reduce from watching Netflix, say, or Facebooking. And that would really have tremendous effect on a child's life.
That's wonderful. I'm sure, Hema, that actually, apart from the learning effect, a huge effect is just the confidence that you're giving young people by giving them time. Just by having volunteers invest in them, I'm sure that's very beneficial. Chaco, did you have anything you'd like to chip in here or anything to ask?
Yes. Well, something that struck me was, what about having people go in and read to groups of children? And if they all have the same book.
I think that would be fantastic. Of course, with pandemic and SOP.
Yeah, obviously, if it's
can't
not
do that. But post-pandemic, that's definitely something that we can do. Get someone to go in. Most of these PPRs have got nice halls, just in one of the blocks that people can just get together and read and really have reading as a culture. And I just want to add here that with all the parents that I've spoken to, they've been very supportive. We've got 30 children, 30 parents in this project. They've all been very supportive, and they are aware of the importance of reading. They're aware of the importance of education. They just don't know what to do. They just don't know how to help their children. And I think that is where we can come in and show them how they can guide their children.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much, Hema. We press on, but again, hopefully at the end, see you for some Q&A. Let's bring in now Ravi, our third alumni. Hi, Ravi. How are you today?
Hi, Patrick. Hi, Chaco.
Hi,
Ravi. Ravi and Chaco, I think you were both at Cambridge at the same time. Is that right? So you're fellow alumni.
No, different times.
No,
yeah,
he
we were
was
at school. We were at high school together.
Yeah. High school. All right. Ravi, you're the CEO of Communitas Wangsa Maju. You're doing lots of good works in the community. You're doing a huge variety of things there, overseeing a school for refugees, I think, registered refugees, 170 students. But you're also doing an awful lot of advocacy work. People who have had violence committed on them, unfair detention, absolutely amazing robustness. I'm sure is required to do what you do. We've got a presentation for Ravi. Let's put up just this slide is good. Ravi, did you want to do an introduction about Communitas Wangsa Maju?
Yes. So I was originally involved with refugees, been working with them for 11 years as a volunteer, and I have a fantastic team with me. Now, throughout our experience dealing with refugees, we found that they lacked recognition. They didn't have any rights. And we understood they had issues living in this country. So Communitas addresses issues of human suffering. You see, education or lack thereof can result in a form of suffering because it closes opportunities for growth in the future. Similarly, poor health also results in a form of suffering. But in Malaysia, we have something more serious is imposed on many of refugees and asylum seekers, which we have observed to be a very unjust system. So what we've done is I'm focusing on 3 areas. The first is the high-level interactions to address human sufferings in these areas. So we have a school. In fact, it's 2 schools. So that is why education is one of these key areas. Now, to add value to our kids, in addition to the science, maths, and English curriculum, we also want to do extracurricular programs. So this means baking, knitting, music, etc. And about 3 years ago, we introduced computer programming and logic classes for the kids because I felt it was important for them to develop logical thinking skills. We also need legal advice. Now, it costs about 13,600 ringgit a month to pay salaries and run the school. So financial issues are, of course, very important. But because we take care of 170 kids and their families, which total about 500 or so people, we are sort of like their guardians in this country where they don't have any friends. So we have had to intervene on medical issues. And during the pandemic, last year especially, we had to supply food for them every 10 days, for the first phase of the pandemic, which lasted about 3 months or so. So that's in a nutshell what we do. Yeah.
Okay. In the interest of time, we have a video showing you doing that food provision work. Can we screen the video quickly?
Hello, my name is Ravi Sundaralingam. I'm the CEO of Communitas Wangsa Maju. We have currently received supplies for food for 106 families. I want to appeal to you to assist us. It costs about 5,000 ringgit to feed about 100 over families for a period of 7 to 10 days. These people have totally run out of money, some of them have run out of food. We need to keep doing it regularly. So I look forward to any assistance you can need whatsoever, either in cash or in kind. Our account number and contact details are attached. Thank you so much.
Great. For people listening, by the way, we're going to put on the bottom of the YouTube channel links to all these organizations. So don't worry if you don't capture the links at the end of the presentation. Can we go back to Ravi's presentation? Ravi, can we just skip through the remaining slides and you just there to give us a feel for all the different things you're doing? Could you just touch on 1 or 2 things?
Yeah, so this is the computer programming classes. Essentially, I had a friend from the venture capital industry who helped pay salaries for trainers, and we had others who were secured computers for us and laptops for the kids to learn how to program. We move to the next slide. What we did was we got our girls to participate in a national competition called Technovation 2018. So over here, they were given a social project and they developed software, and they had to present it as though they were doing a soapbox pitch to a venture capitalist. So we're very proud that the kids with no knowledge of programming and IT were able to deliver.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So this is a family of asylum seekers from Pakistan. And the lady on the right approached me and said she wanted her 2 kids to join the school. I said, okay. When they turned up, I sort of went, oh, it's like I have to care for them a lot more than just education. So the man on the left had a brain tumor, so we did fundraising. We raised 40,000 ringgit so he could have his tumor removed, and we are still doing ongoing support for the family because obviously the man cannot work, and his wife has some kind of dwarfism, and the two kids have similarly have some kind of a genetic disorder, and you can see that their legs are deformed. So we take care of people. So although it's an education center, we take responsibility for the well-being of our refugees to the best of our capabilities. Now,
Okay.
the next one is acts of violence. This picture was taken about 7 years ago. This is Alishba. When she was about 3 or 4 years old, somebody came to her apartment, grabbed her by her leg, dangled her from the 11th floor of the apartment block, and demanded from her father to pay. Otherwise, he dropped her. So the father gave him 150 ringgit. He took this girl and he threw her on the ground, and she broke her arm. So we had to deal with these kind of cases. But unfortunately, the father was so fearful, he did not lodge a police report. So it's very hard for me to take an action. I can only take actions when the police report has been lodged. So these are the sort of things that I have to deal with. So yeah, so if you want to support it, here is our account number.
Again, we'll provide the
with
links
Communitas
in the
Maju.
YouTube channel so you can have a look. And the last slide is just your current fun run that you're doing if people want to do
Yeah,
that.
we're doing a virtual fun run, so people can participate and get some kind of sponsorship support. You could sponsor or fund the school, or you can also sponsor individual students if you wish. So
Okay.
the lessons, the key things based on 11 years of work here that I have done is, first and foremost, you must have compassion and you have to be correctly motivated. Otherwise, you cannot endure this for such a long duration because you're seeing negativity sometimes. A lot of you see people suffering a lot, and then you don't want to be in a position where you close your heart and you sort of lose your warmth towards people.
Actually,
Second thing is this.
Oh, sorry. Carry on.
Yeah. The second thing is you'll be very, very single-minded in what you do. And we have lots of setbacks, obstacles, and disappointments. You need to know how to deal with it. So essentially, you take a hit, you get up, and you continue. And third, and just as important is you must have teams that share your vision. So I always get people involved in whatever project we do and not working alone. Because if I worked alone, we'd not get very far. But I have a fantastic team and lots of supporters, which makes it easy to help these people.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ravi. I think one of the big takeaways for me there is just the toughness of everything. You're really grappling with some really difficult issues, but also, again, you're not just necessarily just asking for money, although I'm sure that would help, but actually it's assistance like legal expertise, assistance with advocating for human rights. So this is the kind of thing some of our alumni may be able to help with. Anyway,
yes.
We need to press on, but Chaco, just any comments or questions from you before we move on?
Because you're dealing with refugees, I was just curious about where these refugees come from. And then do you provide assistance on where they can seek final refuge? Because Malaysia, this can only be a stepping stone, really. So we need to find them, place them in other countries that could be host countries where they can have a permanent life there.
Yeah. So 80% of the kids in these two schools which I oversee are from Myanmar. 20% are from Pakistan. So from Pakistan, they are either Sunni Muslims, Ahmadis, or Christians. Okay, then we have a sprinkling of kids from another 4 countries. So there's a monthly ethnic thing. Now, the responsibility for relocation is in the hands of UNHCR. But in general, refugees will stay in this country for between 7 to 10 years before they move on. Yeah, wow. So that's not much we can do for that. But what I do is intervene in cases of detention. So they get picked up, and sometimes by the authorities, which will demand certain amount of money for them to be released. And sometimes they put into a detention center for up to 14 days. The objective is to verify and validate the identity. But usually what happens is there will be some kind of demand for funds to release them. But the reality is this: even if you're paid, you will still stay in detention for 12 to 14 days. Yeah, so these are the sort of things we have to deal with, and it's not pleasant.
It sounds very tough. Okay, thank you, Ravi. We put a
Fantastic
press
that you're there for them. Thank you, Ravi.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Right, let's move on to our last speaker, our last alumni speaker. This is Aberna. Hello, Aberna.
Hi, everyone.
Aberna works with HungerHurts Malaysia, and Aberna is calling us from Cambridge. So you're a second-year Human, Social and Political Sciences undergraduate at Cambridge, but you're also a marketing team member for HungerHurts Malaysia. So welcome. I know you were heavily involved in Freshers Week a couple of weeks ago. How did that go?
Oh, that went well. I think right now as well, because it's kind of this post-pandemic world in the UK. So we're organizing a lot of events every week, and every night's just really happening. So it's been good.
Great. Now, I know HungerHurts Malaysia does lots and lots of different things. We have a quick video first, just to give a flavor of some of your food aid programs. Can we show the video? So what were we seeing there, Aberna? Just tell us, what did we just look at?
Yeah. So essentially, those two videos come from two separate projects. The first video was an example of our White Flag Movement project. So that was from our food bank in Ampang. So I will explain a little bit about the White Flag Movement project that HungerHurts has been carrying out. But essentially, we have 5 food banks, and the idea of it is to provide essential groceries to families in need around the area. The second video comes from our Sabah project. So that was a video of sort of aid provision to certain marginalized communities within the region of Sabah itself.
Great. Now, we've got some slides that you can control how we go through these. You don't have to talk on each of them, but just dip through. But yes, do bring out which of your projects you'd like us to know about.
For sure. All right, so I just want to introduce HungerHurts a little bit. So HungerHurts basically is a youth-led organization that was founded to sort of solve or eradicate a lot of poverty-related issues. So like Hema mentioned as well, and as all the other speakers mentioned, poverty is multidimensional. So we address in HungerHurts a lot of poverty-related issues when it comes to education, when it comes to food aid, and when it comes to empowerment of small businesses. So 3 things that we really want to focus on in this particular webinar would be 3 projects of ours, which would be our White Flag Movement project, which this slide refers to. And our White Flag Movement project basically enables communities in need to obtain groceries. So we're talking about fresh groceries. We're also talking about diapers, milk products, etc., real needs. And we are hoping to sort of expand it further to other beneficiaries we have targeted, either through our beneficiary program or also through our 5 food banks that are located in Klang, Petaling Jaya, Ampang, Jalan Ipoh, and Kota Kinabalu. So that's our first project. So this 15,798 was our total channeled amount for the month of September alone. In August, we channeled 19,696 ringgit, and July was our phenomenal month where we channeled 79,259 ringgit, therefore actually enabling support for over 507 families. So that's our first project. Our second project that we really want to highlight is part of our aspect of the Feed a Kid flagship program that we have. So we're targeting Sabah specifically. And in July alone, we supported 288 families. So much credit goes to our Sabah team, because most of our committee, we are based in the headquarters itself. I mean, we don't actually have a headquarters, but we call our sort of KL base our headquarters. But our Sabah team focuses on direct aid. And why that's very crucial and why I want to highlight that is because our Sabah team is able to identify real needy locations. So as you saw in the video earlier, we go to areas that are only accessible by boat. We go to areas that are quite remote. And right now, we are hoping to raise 90,000 ringgit that covers 4 districts and 1,100 families. So as you see here in this particular slide, we are focusing on, yes, 90,000, yeah. But the earlier slide, we were focusing on the kinds of groceries we are providing. So we're talking about fresh groceries. So we provide tea, coffee, chicken, fish, real needs of communities, not just rice or sugar. And also for families that require baby milk powder and baby diapers, we also provide that. So our community is our organization, is very focused on the communities we serve rather than our organization's sort of like descriptions. So we want to make sure that whatever aid we provide caters to the needs of the communities. So that's the second aspect we really want to raise funds for. So we have a target of 90,000 and we are raising funds because we have targeted 4 districts and 1,500 families. So that's the
click through some of the remaining slides here are very much the Sabah slides, I think, aren't
Yes,
they?
absolutely.
Just click through really interesting pictures of you distributing food in remote areas by boat and some of your store warehouses and things.
So big shout out.
Sorry.
Yeah. So big shout out to our Sabah team led by Reen Sharina. So they really sort of focus on the communities that are absolutely in need. So as you can see in these photos, we really go to sort of not normally accessible areas. So that's the main thing for Sabah. The third project that we really want to focus on, which leads us back.
We can take the presentation away now, guys, the people backstage. Yeah, carry on. And now this third one, Aberna.
Sure. Yeah, so the third project is our One Meal project that was started by one of our ambassadors, Imran Shah. So basically, this One Meal project, when we tie it back to the concept of poverty being multidimensional, we are focusing on financial sustainability of small businesses. So during the pandemic, a lot of small businesses suffered because they were the ones who had to shut down. They couldn't have food delivery services. They couldn't access Grab food and whatnot. So a lot of these small businesses, stalls, like in Malay we say gerai as well, were really, really suffering. So one thing we did as HungerHurts was create a two-way initiative that focuses on supplying pre-prepared food to identify communities in need while ensuring small businesses are supported by also providing the small businesses with direct funds and connecting them to digitalization. So one thing that we really did was ensure that the companies the stalls and the small businesses we work with proceed to digitalization. And that was something we did by partnering with a local NGO called Projek Nita that has a digital adaptation program called Empower F&B that upskills and reskills these stalls. Because at the end of the day, when we go into a digital world where a lot of people are clicking Instagram and Twitter links to purchase their food or to donate, this is something we want to help the stalls we work with improve on sort of their business. So this is something that we are really kind of partnering with, and a very important thing that we are doing is actually connecting with stalls from marginalized communities. So one of the organizations we partnered with was Biji Bumi Durian, which is an Orang Asli organization that runs durian sales. We partnered with women-owned businesses, so run by single mothers. And currently we're focusing on 4 small businesses run by members of the disabled community. So we really want to empower these communities because, again, when we come back to the concept of poverty being multidimensional, it's always the marginalized communities due to intersectionality that suffer the most. So I know I'm going on a spiel here, but essentially, we really want to draw attention to 3 main things. Number 1, the youth-led culture of the organization, because we really see things that sometimes we feel other organizations may, leave out. The second thing we want to highlight is our One Meal project, where we focus on empowering marginalized communities. And we use the word empowering, not help, because when we talk about digitalization as well, it is for them to sustain themselves after partnering with us as well. So that's the second thing we want to highlight. The third thing we want to highlight, and this again goes back to the main aim of this webinar, right? Like how can Oxbridge Malaysia help us? We really want to raise funds for our Sabah project and for all our other projects. So essentially, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter. We are very active there, HungerHurts My. Or you can also connect with us. I think details will be sent later on. So we have our Linktree donation link in the YouTube comments there. But also you can partner with us. We are really looking for any kind of sponsorships. We are looking for volunteers. We are looking for anybody who's able to help us with any part of our projects. So I've just highlighted 3, but we have many going on. So right now as well, when we talk about education, we have a few other projects. So we are looking for monetary donations and partnerships.
Thank you, Aberna. So I think the thing I would highlight to the alumni group about what you're doing is this: it's very innovative. Particularly the work you're doing with the intermediaries to empower the small stall holders. So you're actually helping them to grow their businesses, and then they can help other people in poverty. So it's like a double benefit, which I think is very cool. Your food aid is wonderful as well, obviously, but I think that helping the stallholders, the intermediaries, that empowering angle is something that's unique to HungerHurts Malaysia. So it's quite remarkable. Okay, thank you, Abuna. Stay there. Can we bring in everyone else? And hopefully we've got some time for some Q&A. Chaco, did you want to start with any questions out to the group?
Well, I think what did you find to be the most challenging starting your project? Perhaps
Maybe
Kai Song could start, since we've not heard from her in a while.
Sure. I would like to share something quite unexpected for us as a free tutoring organization. So we expected getting a lot of students to participate immediately, but unexpectedly, what was more challenging was student recruitment rather than tutor recruitment. We were flooded by volunteers, but because we had a very strict set of criteria in order to really help students, rather than just opening up application on a newspaper and get anybody to sign up, even if they come from an urban privileged family. We really had a hard time reaching these students. We contacted more than 150 teachers from schools. Some of them were really angry because they were under a lot of stress from school, and when we reached out to them to get additional support to help their students from a non-profit angle, they really found they had very limited capacity. So that was very challenging from the Rakan Tutor, and we spent more time to recruit the students than the volunteers.
That's very interesting, and as I say, it's surprising for you, surprising for me. But did you work with teachers for that, to try and identify students?
Yeah. So we only accepted students that came from teachers rather than opening up our sign-up form to the public, because we wanted to make sure everyone came on the program really needed a one-to-one free tutoring program. As you can imagine, if we say, hey, here's free tutoring, everybody's just going to say, oh, I want it. Even though my parents might be earning a lot of money, I might have a lot of tuition lined up for me already. So I think what we learned from it is to, number one, partner with other organizations. Eventually, we reach out to some of the organizations that help with the digital divide, such as I think we work with like Connect ED. We also work with Laptops for All to target these students. We also continuously engage more and more teachers in order to reach these students. And I think that's also an area of partnership that we would love to work with to impact the students. If you're an Oxbridge alumni working on an organization that has access to a lot of B40 students in need, we'd love to get in touch with you and see how we could support them next year in our cohort.
So actually finding tutees is a challenge for you, Kai Song. Emma, how about you? Have you had similar challenges, or do you find finding the tutees easier?
We did not have any problems because we approached one PPR directly, and we're working on with just one PPR in Cheras, PPR Seri Alam. So we approached the organization there, the communities, and we've got the 30 children. I think we got more, but then we did a diagnostics test, and we, like what Kai Siong said, we eliminated a few and kept it to 30. So we did not have any problems with that. We, of course, along the way, we had several hiccups with children not being, or parents rather not committing to the time that has been agreed with the volunteers. So the volunteers will be phoning them, and there will be no responses. So it doesn't happen regularly, but it happens every now and then. So that sort of small hiccups along the way.
Okay. So actually, Hema, I was also wondering whether like audiobook versions of the books that you use would be useful, so even so they can listen to it while they read. I remember when I was a kid, we used to have these records which would play somebody reading the thing, and we would read the book, and then Tinkerbell would ring her little bell like this, and you turn the page. So I don't know whether something like that can be replicated.
Could be a fantastic idea. I think, I've thought about that as well. And I mean, we used to have language labs where we go in and put on the earphone and listen. If you're learning a foreign language, I think we don't have that much these days anymore. But it's sort of something that I think we can try and do, like a mobile language lab that we can bring from one place to another, like a mobile library.
Well, if it's an MP3 file, it can be on their phone. You can send it out to their phone, and then they have
That's
the book,
right, yes.
and then they listen to it.
Correct.
Perhaps you could get some voiceover artists to read the books and record it for you.
Yes. Great idea. Thanks.
I must say you all sound very upbeat considering the stresses of the challenges that you've tried to take on. We've had one question from the audience online, which is quite interesting, which is, has there been one incident that made you want to stop what you're now doing? And if so, how did you overcome it? Ravi, how about you? I just imagine you must be confronted all the time with despairing situations. How do you overcome demoralization?
Yeah, we have to keep plodding along. That's why I said earlier, you have to have compassion and be correctly motivated. Now, we don't want the worst kind of motivation for this kind of work is if you are attention seeking or you are looking for publicity. That's a recipe for disaster. So you, in a nutshell, have to love people for who they are. And when you start reaching out to people, you deal with all sorts of characters, and you have to exercise a lot of patience, and you got to be their friend. And that's a challenge, but I've improved over the years. So I am not, I don't struggle with these things, but I struggle with frustration in the sense that.
Is there one particular incident? I think the Sharifa is asking the question.
Okay.
There was a case. There
was a case of a armed robbery on a Myanmar. Somebody came in, held a knife against a 5-year-old kid's throat, and demanded the parent to part with some money. So a police report was lodged. We managed to apprehend those people. We went to court 11 times, and this chap was acquitted. Okay, so the prosecution couldn't close the case. The defense lawyer was doing all sorts of deals, and I was very frustrated because I felt like, how is there any justice for something that was a clear-cut case where there was so much evidence? So that was a difficult thing for me.
Right. Bernard, from your perspective, HungerHurts Malaysia comes across as very upbeat and positive, and I think you pride yourself on being a youth-led culture. Do you ever experience any serious incidents? Have there been any sort of blockages that have prevented the food aid from being distributed? Any frustrations similar to Ravi's?
Yeah. So I think one thing I want to highlight, which comes back to the idea of poverty being multidimensional and intersectional as well, is that I remember one of our amazing vice presidents, Sarah, she was talking to me, I think when she was recruiting me for the organization, she was talking about how when we raise funds for schools that are part of the national system, so schools that are generally sekolah kebangsaan schools, you raise money a lot faster than when you raise funds for schools that are Tamil schools or even Chinese schools. So a big question here then would be, why is it that we are still, marketing our fundraisers in the same way, we are marketing the approach in the same way, because we also understand that a lot of Tamil schools suffer from really severe poverty. But when we try to raise money for these schools, we don't get as much donations. So that raises the questions of how do we overcome this barrier? Because as an organization, and again, tying back with the fact that, we are youths and we see these things, we understand that there is severe marginalization of poor Indians and whatnot, and that is something that we need to highlight. But how do we raise the funds to kind of support our initiatives? So we kind of have to dig really deep and find different sources of funding to support our aims, which we don't want to change, because we don't want at the end of the day to say, oh, we are not going to raise funds for Tamil schools, because that's not what we stand for. So having that sort of moral dilemma and also understanding the financial feasibility of our fundraisers is the big question that HungerHurts grapples with.
Right.
Patrick, I think we're getting on to close to 9:15, so we should probably start wrapping up.
Well, we were thinking to wrap up before we finish tonight. We'd like to go around the table and ask all of you if
I think that's a great idea.
If you have sort of one final comment or message that you'd like to give to our alumni, what would you like them to take away from this evening's webinar? Let's go in reverse order of you speaking. Aberna, why don't you go first? What's your one key message to everybody for tonight?
So first of all, thank you for having HungerHurts featured on this webinar. I think for us, there are three things we really want to highlight. Number one, we really need donations. We need as much as we can get. We need a lot of support in terms of organizations to partner with, organizations to support our current projects. And thirdly, we also would love volunteers, because I'm sure all the organizations featured here would agree, we have a lot more demand than we have resources for. And so if we can really, enhance our resource bank, that will be amazing, whether it's monetary resources or also human resources.
Noted. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if Ravi's still here. I see a black square. Is Ravi online?
I think he might have dropped out. I'm not sure.
No, I'm just...
You're a voice from the darkness.
Yeah.
Ravi, we can sort of slightly hear you. Do you have a final key message? I don't know if your camera's on.
Yeah, I think it's on.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we can hear you. So just give us a final key message for tonight, maybe.
Yeah. So I need people to work with me on these high-level issues on advocacy, because we need to engage with the government to do what is good and right for asylum seekers and refugees, and also for the B40 community. Also skills, that's for the school, and finally it's funding.
Okay. So advocacy, help with advocacy and skills, and also, of course, funding as well. All right, thank you, Ravi. Kai Song, how about, Hema next. Hema, how about you? What's your message for everybody?
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks as well for having me here and for allowing me to showcase Projek BacaBaca. I also want to take this opportunity to thank our funder for this phase, Masing Foundation, as well as Taylor's University. I think that one message I want to leave with everyone is that Projek BacaBaca's tagline, which is learning to read, reading to learn. I can't stress enough the importance of reading. And like I said earlier, how without reading or having low proficiency in reading will affect all aspects of their life, their education, their learning. And as such, Projek BacaBaca wants to work towards alleviating this learning poverty in Malaysia. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you've got that across very clearly tonight. Thank you, Hema. Kai Song, a final word from you.
Thanks for having us here today, Patrick, and thanks for allowing us to share more about Rakan Tutor. I think just want to highlight that learning loss and learning inequality is really a big thing in Malaysia right now. Learning loss continues to accumulate even after school reopens, given the things that a student would have missed out in the past year or so. We would love to continue this program beyond the pandemic and would appreciate any support in terms of tech partnership, content partnership, any speakers for Inspire sessions, as well as any partnership to set up new Rakan Tutor branches if you are a university, an international sixth form college, or any groups of people in the community that might want to set up a tutoring program, would love to have a conversation.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kai. I'll hand over to Chaco in just a minute. Before I do, just to give you my response on everything that you said tonight, I think all of you're pursuing amazing responses to the initiative. You don't know yet, we don't know yet how successful all these initiatives are going to be. But one thing that I think comes across very clearly is that all of you and your organizations, you just have great energy, great innovations, and great compassion. So personally, I find your spirit very humbling and inspiring, and I'm absolutely full of admiration for what you're doing. So please, all our members, do follow up with tonight's speakers. Check them out, see for yourself if you want to give them your support. We are providing the links at the bottom of the YouTube channel. And contact them now. Do it now after the webinar while you're still motivated to do something quickly. My sincere thanks again, and over to you, Chaco, for formal thank yous.
Well, thank you, Patrick. And I think we're getting lots of comments from people like Sean and Zamir and Margaret. And you just saw Terry's comments saying, well done, congratulations, so inspiring, very important work. So, and I echo all that. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. Keep up the good work. I'd like to thank people who've been working behind the scenes tirelessly, particularly our President Emma, we've got Sharifa, we've got Faisal, Liana did the graphics for our poster, etc. And thank you to us panelists for participating and sharing what you're doing. Aberna, Ravi, Hema, Kaisong, and of course, Harith Iskander. He had to drop out, but we're really grateful that he found time to be with us and share what he's doing. And also by being here, I hope he's inspiring all of you and I think allowing us to share in his celebrity status and hopefully adding more support and attention, shining a spotlight on the work that you're doing along with his work. And I think we all saw what important work he's doing. Thank you to all our viewers for tuning in. Please do like, subscribe, share the link so that more people can watch it. Tell people to come and watch the recording. And of course, look at the links below. And if you feel inspired by all of us panelists or some of them, do check them out and support them in cash or kind or through connections that you can help them do better work. It is such important work. And I think the pandemic has really, I think this is the silver lining of the pandemic, that so many amazing people have come forward. And I think we can all share in helping other people less fortunate than us. I hope we've seen the worst of the pandemic and there are better and brighter things for all of us to look forward to. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening and good night from Patrick and myself and all of us at the Oxford and Cambridge Society Malaysia.
Good night, everyone.